Hey guys, today we're going to read some more MOCHA. And guys, I'm going to leave this vid real quick. And this one's bad. Boom. Okay, there. And now let's continue. Guys, I hope you like my new screensaver. The beach. Translate. First thing, the next morning, Charles and Becky buckled up in the backseat of the van. In front, Mom drove us. Uncle Stephen in the passenger seat gave directions. Charles could tell that, just like Lizzie, Mom did not like her little brother telling her what to do. Take a left out of the driveway, Uncle Stephen said as they started out. I know the way to town, Stevie, Mom answered. I just don't know exactly where the vet's office is. Becky and Charles smiled at each other. Then Charles turned around in his back seat so he could see MOCHA and Buddy cheering the way back. The two had already become such good pals that Charles had begged Mom to let Buddy come along. Aunt Abigail had called the local vet and arranged a quick visit, just so he could check MOCHA for a microchip. If someone is missing this dog, they'll want to know where she is as soon as possible, she said. If there's no microchip, then there's probably no way we can find her owners. At least we'll know one way or the other. Charles reached back to pet MOCHA. Poor little girl. Had she ever had a real family? If we can't find your people, he promised, we'll find you the very best home we can. MOCHA thumped her tail and licked his hand, gazing up at him with her big brown eyes. And beneath that cute wrinkled brow, I'm not sure where I am, but I am sure one of thing you're a friend. Up front, Mom made a disgusted sound as they drove past the big stone pillars that flanked the iron gate. We noticed that place yesterday. Who lives up there anyway? She asked. Some millionaire, I guess. He must be, said Uncle Stephen. That's our newest neighbor. The guy who owns it is probably the richest guy in the country. He likes his privacy. That's for sure. Nobody around. Drives through town in a big black car with tinted windows. Becky leaned over to whisper to Charles, right up to the gate. I was going to sneak around and ride my bike up the driveway to see his house, but I couldn't. The whole property is fenced in. Plus, there are tons of signs everywhere about some alarm system. Charles raised his eyebrows. I guess he really doesn't want any surprised visitors. Becky shrugged. Maybe not, but I'm going back soon. There's an intercom on one of those pillars, and I'm going to push the button and see what happens. Maybe the gate will swing open automatically. She grinned at him. Are you in? Charles stared at her. I don't know, he said. She raised her eyebrows. Dare you? She said, double dare. Charles, turn right up here, said Uncle Stephen, and then take that left. See the red barn? That's where we're going. Charles leaned forward in his seat, stared out the window as if he were very, very interested in the view, hoping that Becky would not notice that he had not answered her there. But Becky wasn't finished. I'm thinking he might be our mystery man from last night, she added. Don't you want to find out? Charles shrugged. Maybe, I guess. But what if there's a security camera? What if guards come out? What do we say if someone asks us what we're doing? Now Becky shrugged. We'll think of something, she said, as Mom pulled up in the front of the red barn. A sign on the door said Elvis Shrunk, Small and Large Animal Practice. A vet named Elvis? Mom asked, giggling. He's supposed to be a great guy, Uncle Stephen said. Let's go meet him. Charles liked the vet right away. He was a tall, gangly man with a warm smile. I'm Dr. Elvis, he said, shaking everyone's hand in turn. And this must be our lost dog, he added, as he helped MOCHA up onto the high table in the center of a sparkling clean exam room. She wagged her tail as he looked all over, running his hands along her body. Then she sat back on her haunches and put her paws up on Dr. Helvis' shoulders to give him a puppy hug. Another friend! Wonderful! Dr. Elvis laughed and hugged her back. You like to make friends, don't you? She gets along with everybody, said Charles. He had met a lot of sweet dogs, but MOCHA might be the friendliest ever. He told the vet how MOCHA had been found near the city running across a busy 4-lane highway. Dr. Elvis finished the exam, checking her ears, mouth, and I'd say she's about 6 months old. She's skinny, but she looks healthy enough. No collar probably means no home. But since she's so friendly, I bet she was able to find folks who gave her food. She may have been living on the streets in the city for quite a while. He picked up a device that looked like an oversized TV remote and waved it to MOCHA's body. Then he shook his head. I'm not picking up a chip. Too bad. I can't notify the police and put out the word to any vets. I know, but if she was running by herself in such a big city, I doubt we'll be able to track down her owners. If she had any, Mom sighed. I think you're right, she said. After all, if she had a family, they might not even be from the city. She could have jumped out of any car or truck going down that highway. She sure is a fine-looking dog, though. Dr. Elvis stepped back to get another view. Great. Temperature. 2. She's very sweet. Judging by those big paws, she'll probably grow to be 19 to 100 pounds, maybe more. Wonder what her mix is. We were trying to figure that out, said Uncle Stephen. Saint Bernard, maybe. There's an easy way to find out, said Dr. Elvis. I just got a DNA testing kit. We can take a blood sample and send it to a lab. They'll tell us exactly what breed she is. You can do that? Charles asked. He had never heard of such a thing before. Dr. Elvis nodded. In fact, I'm offering it as a free special these days, just to see how it works. What do you say? Can we test Buddy too? Charles asked. Our puppy. I mean, he's in the car. Dr. Elvis looked surprised. Then he smiled. Sure, why not? Chapter 5. While we're at it, maybe we should get Buddy microchipped, Mom said. We've been talking about that for a long time. And this is a good reminder. That is a smart thing to do. If MOCHA had a chip, we would be calling her owners right now, but Buddy would never run away," said Charles. Dr. Elvis shook his head. "I've known plenty of dog owners who said that and were proven wrong. You just never known. I think your mom's right. Better safe than sorry. The process really doesn't hurt the dog at all. That's what you're worried about." While Mom got Buddy from the van, the vet took some blood from MOCHA's leg using a big needle that Charles did not like looking at. Then he asked Charles to hold MOCHA while he worked with Buddy. Charles sat down on the bench next to Becky, and MOCHA jumped up next to him. He pulled her onto his lap. She did not seem bothered at all that poking and prodding she'd been through. She wagged her tail and licked Charles' face. Then she put her paws up on his shoulders to give him a big warm puppy hug. "This is fun. I wonder what we'll do next. Woof!" Charles laughed as he hugged her back, then tried to help her settle. She squirmed in his lap and snuffled at his pockets, while Charles and Becky petted her, trying to keep her calm and quiet. Well, aren't you a cutie?" Dr. Elvis said as he lifted Buddy onto the table with quick, confident motions. He took some blood and used another needle, even bigger, to insert a tiny microchip under the skin on the back of Buddy's neck. Done, he announced. A second later, Buddy had not even whimpered. Dr. Elvis petted Buddy. "If I had to guess, I'd say this guy is part Jack Russell here," and he stroked his chin. "Maybe part Chow? But we'll know more when the lab processes the blood sample. It'll take a few weeks, but I'll be in touch as soon as I have results on both dogs." "A few weeks," Charles wished they didn't have to wait so long. Not that it really mattered. Buddy and MOCHA were fantastic dogs, no matter what breeds they were. He hugged MOCHA close as Mom and Uncle Stephen gave Dr. Elvis their phone numbers and other information. "Hey," said Becky in an odd voice. "Look at that." "What?" She pulled out of her pocket. Charles looked down at MOCHA. There, trailing from her mouth, was a red handkerchief she had found outside the night before, the handkerchief that belonged to the mysterious stranger. He'd forgotten all about it after he'd stuffed it into his pocket. "This is great," said Becky. "Great, why?" Charles was not sure he liked the way Becky's eyes were gleaming. That usually meant he was in for an adventure. The kind of adventure that did not always turn out so well. "Don't you get it?" She pulled the big, silky square gently out MOCHA's mouth. "Now we have the perfect excuse to ring the intercom button on the big gate." She took a closer look at the handkerchief. "Check it out. There's a monogram on it. A-M-I. I wonder what those initials stands for." She began to run through some possible names. A. Morrow Inkpot, Arthur Madison Ink, Alexander Micklestone Avison. Noted for hours. Before they headed back to the farmhouse, Mom reminded Uncle Stephen that Aunt Abigail had asked them to go to the supermarket for a few last-minute items. "Oops," said Uncle Stephen, patting his pocket. "I forgot to bring my list she made, but I think I remember most of the things on it." Becky and Charles waited in the van while Mom and Uncle Stephen did the shopping. Charles was quiet, but Becky chattered on about the handkerchief, the gate, the initials. She couldn't wait to go push that intercom button. "We'll go right after lunch," said Becky. "We can say we want to walk down to the store." Charles loved going to the general store down the road. It was warm and welcoming place, with a wood stove surrounded by tables and chairs where local folks liked to sit and chat while they drank coffee. The store wasn't a supermarket, but it had most of basics like eggs and milk and canned tomatoes. So Aunt Abigail often sent Charles and Becky to pick up some last ingredients she needed in the summer. They could buy ice cream cones from the takeout window and sit on the porch overlooking the lake while they ate them. But today, Charles knew the trip to the store was just an excuse. "Stephanie will be suspicious," Charles said. "Remember when we were hiding Flash in the barn and we kept going down to the store for dog food? Stephanie figured out that we were up to something. When they had found Flash, the border collie puppy, Charles and Becky had decided to keep him a secret. That had not lasted long, not with their bussy, boldy older sisters. Let her wonder," said Becky with a shrug. As it turned out, Stephanie and Lizzie were busy cutting out pictures to make holiday colleges. When Becky and Charles told their moms they were walking to the store, "Great," said Aunt Abigail. "Can you get me one more stick of butter and some lemons? They were on my list, but somebody forgot." She made a face at Uncle Stephen, but she was smiling as she pushed back her hair with a flour-covered hand. Aunt Abigail had once been a pastry chef at a fancy hotel, and she loved to cook and bake. "Somebody is very sorry since somebody was looking forward to your lemon tart," said Uncle Stephen. The kitchen was a mess, with flour spilled everywhere, and pots and pans clattering as Aunt Abigail bustled to and fro, mixing and stirring and preparing for the next day's feast. Charles could hardly wait for all the delicious desserts they would have. He went over to sniff an apple cake that sat cooling on the counter. "Let's go," Becky pulling on his sleeve. "Take the dogs with you, please," said Mom. They could both use some exercise. A few months later, Charles held Mocha's leash and Becky held Buddy's. As they headed down the long driveway, Charles eyed the corner of the red handkerchief trailing out of Becky's pocket. He was curious about its owner, too, but he still wasn't sure about his plan of Becky's. Before he knew it, they were standing at the gate with the big stone pillars. The gate looked even more imposing now that they were right next to it. Its black iron scroll worked, looming over them. The pillars on either side of it towered high above their heads. Charles' heart thumped in his chest as Becky held the large button on the silver metal intercom ready. She asked. Charles drew in a breath and nodded. I guess, he answered. Becky pushed the button. Nothing happened. She pushed it again. This time the intercom erupted with the unmistakable sound of the pack of vicious dogs barking their heads off. Chapter 6. Yow! Charles jumped back, nearly tripping over MOCHA. She stood feet planted, and her ears laid back, barking at the intercom. Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? You don't sound very friendly. If you try to hurt me, my friends, I'll fight you. Buddy joined in the barking, too. Let's get out of here, yelled Becky, turning to run back onto the road. Charles tried to follow her, but MOCHA did not want to stop barking. Back at the intercom, dogs. Charles was stuck. He couldn't leave MOCHA, but he didn't want to stand there for even one more second. Anyway, he expected a black pack of slavering, sharp-toothed dogs, Dobermans, maybe with their sleek bodies and bullet-shaped heads, charging down the long driveway toward him. All he wanted was to get anyway before he saw those white teeth and red tongues up close. Come on, MOCHA! Charles pulled at her leash. Please! Finally, after throwing in a few growls for good measure, she turned and trotted along after him. Yikes! Said Becky when they were safely on the road again. She glanced back at the gate and gave a little shiver. Well, that answered one question. Anyway, that's not where MOCHA's rescuer lives. Charles tried to catch his breath. He looked back. What are you talking about? He said. His brain did not seem to be working so well. Becky was making sense. He doesn't have dogs, remember? Becky said in a don't you get it kind of voice. He said he can't even care for a houseplant. So any investigation, if we want to find out who he is, Charles looked back at the gate. I think I've had enough investigations for one day, he said. Let's just go to the general store and get your mom's lemons. Becky shrugged. Fine, she said. She swaggered along, acting as though the dogs had not scared her one bit. But Charles noticed that she kept checking behind them as they walked. The store was just as Charles remembered it. Warm, inviting, with squeaky old wooden floors and rows of shelves packed with everything, with boxes and spaghetti, furniture, polish. Charles could smell something delicious, maybe a pot of soup simmering on the stove. The only thing that was different was the woman at the cash register making change for a customer. She had long gray hair and a nice smile, but she did not look familiar. Where's Miss Daniels? Charles whispered to Becky as they entered the store. Charles remembered Miss Daniels because she had always enjoyed hearing his latest knock-knock joke. She sold the store to Kim in Carillon. last July. Becky whispered back. That's Kim. Come on, I'll introduce you. Are you sure it's okay to bring the dogs in? Charles asked. The woman at the counter heard that. She smiled. We love dogs, she said, and these look like two excellent pups. She reached into a glass cookie jar and pulled out 2 big dog biscuits. Here you go, she said, coming around the counter to give one to each dog, along with a pat and a kiss on the head. This is my cousin Charles, Becky said, and the dogs are Buddy and MOCHA. Hello, Buddy, said Kim. Hello, MOCHA. Aren't you a pretty girl? She ruffled MOCHA's ears. Aren't Caroline will love this dog, she predicted. She had a husky once, and she likes big pups with curly tails. She stood up. Caroline, she called, come meet some dogs. Caroline came out from the kitchen in the back of the store, wiping her hands on a long white apron. She had short curly gray hair and wore silver-rimmed glasses. She beamed when she spotted the dogs. Well, hello, she said as she knelt to pet Buddy and MOCHA. MOCHA put 2 feet on Caroline's shoulders and leaned in for a puppy hug. MOCHA, said Charles. Down, girl. Sometimes MOCHA could be a little too friendly. Caroline laughed. That's okay. I need some puppy love today. She returned MOCHA's hug and kissed her on the ear. Then she looked at Kim. Lots of orders coming in for food. Everybody panicking with this ice storm. They're predicting. Kim nodded. I know, we're almost sold out of toilet paper and milk already. Speaking of milk, said Caroline, straightening up, now that your dogs had a treat, maybe you kids would like a snack too. I just took a fresh batch of chocolate chip cookies out of the oven. Charles and Becky looked at each other, shrugged and smiled. Home-baked cookies, who could say no to that? Soon they found themselves on a bench in the back of the store. Backs warmed by the wood stove, munching on their sweet treats. Casey's Cafe. Charles read the sign over the counter. Enter as strangers, leave as friends. Casey's Cafe is named after Kim and Caroline. Their initials are KC. Get it? Becky asked. People sat at the tables chatting as they spooned up soup or sipped hot chocolate. The guy in the plaid jacket is Neil, Becky whispered, nudging Charles. He drives the town snowplow, and his wife, Dot, raises goats. She pointed to another man. Wyan runs the gas station. Dad says he can fix anything, and that's Dean, next to him. He takes care of the vacation homes around here. Buddy immediately curled up by the wood stove, but MOCHA made her way around the table, saying hello to each person in turn, making friends out of strangers. Just like the sign said, Charles had never seen such a social dog. Each person in the cafe petted MOCHA and cooked over her head, and her tail wagged harder and harder. A big burst of laughter came from the table. No kidding, Charles heard a man named Dean say. These second home owners are helpless and clueless, too. He leaned in toward the others, up on East Hill. I knew they were coming up for the holiday, so I got the place all ready, laid logs in the fireplace, and everything. The guy calls me last night to ask where the switch is. Switch? I asked. To turn on the fire, he says. Try a match, I told him. Everybody cracked up. Becky and Charles grinned at each other. It was fun to eavesdrop on the conversation. That's nothing, said Neil. Remember that little old snowstorm we had last week? 2 inches of fluff. I plowed that place up the Pleasant Street, but the guy was still too scared to drive down his own driveway. He called and begged me to tow him out of the main road. Can't wait to see how they all handled the big storm coming our way, said Neil. Juan shook his head. If you want to live out here in the sticks, you gotta know how to do for yourself and maybe help a neighbor too. This town's going downhill fast in these days. Are you kind of people moving in? Becky finished her cookie in 2 big bites, gulped down the last of her milk, and raised her eyebrows at Charles. He wondered what she had in mind. He found out soon. She pulled the handkerchief out of her pocket and looked at the monogram in the corner. Do any of those people you're talking about have the initials AML? She asked. When there was a lull in the conversation, Juan scratched his head. Neil looked up at the ceiling. Dean knit his brows. Then they all shook their heads. Nope. Can't you think of anyone? Yeah. Got me. Yay, got me. Just then, MOCHA pulled the handkerchief out of Becky's hand and ran to the door with it. A roar of laughter went up from the table. Nice move, pup, said one of the guys. Guess that means it's time to get going, said Becky. Charles and Becky leashed the dogs, zipped up their jackets, and headed home. It doesn't sound like people like their new neighbors too much. Don't respect them. I know, said Becky. I'm glad my mom and dad know how to do stuff. Juan is right. Those people shouldn't live in the country if they can't take care of themselves. She turned off the road into a little patch that wound through the woods. Where are we going? Charles asked as Becky and the dogs charged ahead, leaping over roots and rocks. But Charles slowed down. Where was the road? Where they were headed in the right direction? This is the back way home. The back way home. Becky turned to face him. She rolled her eyes. Don't worry. I've taken this path 1,000,000 times. We won't get lost. Charles had to admit that Becky seemed to know her way, and sure enough, they soon found themselves back at the farmhouse. Aunt Abigail was wiping down the kitchen counter when they walked in. Where are my lemons? She asked. Guys, chapter 7. We are done, but I will give you a little intro thing. Chapter 7, a little 1 page, guys. When Charles awoke the next morning, Thanksgiving Day, he took a look out the window. Then he rolled over and snuggled down deep into the flannel-lined coziness of his sleep. sleeping bag, glad that he did not have anywhere to go. It was a rainy and gray and cold outside. Charles didn't see any ice on the window, though. Maybe it was just a lucky day. Maybe the storm warnings were wrong. Anyway, the good news was that Uncle Stephen had promised to go back to the store for the lemons. Charles and Becky had forgotten, according to him. Caroline and Kim always stayed open at least until noon on holidays, just for last-minute needs like this. So guys, I hope you liked those 3 chapters. And so guys, I hope you liked them. And you might hear my voice echoing because I'm in a small room. Bye! Bye guys!